Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Outdoor Adventures on Brownfield. I'm Brent Barnett. This week's program is brought to you by Beck's Hybrids. This season, Beck's is recognizing student athletes who are not just stars in athletics, but players who show heart in school, at work, in their communities, and in the ag industry. At Beck's, we are and will remain farmers at heart. Well, back with me on the show this week is Sean McVeigh from Sean's Outdoor Adventures from YouTube. And if you're a follower of the show, you're probably saying, I feel like we just saw Sean here like maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5 weeks ago. But I decided to ask Sean to come back on because at that time we were discussing some plans for the rut and his recap of the 2024 season. And in that time, Sean has had a crazy couple of weeks here, so I asked him if he would come back on and give us an update on his outstanding archery season so far. Sean, good morning. How are you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me on the show.
Pleasure to have you back, and let's just get right to it. So how's the season been going for you so far since the last time we talked?
So I'm going to say something that maybe a lot of bow hunters can relate to, but we hear of the October lull. I definitely had a lull of an October. I was mainly just looking to fill a few doe tags, and even the does were not coming close enough to my stand. They were, I was, as you know, I try to get the urban zone hunts. To qualify for a bonus buck tag, you need to shoot 5 doe this season to get the bonus tag next season. So I figured I'd spend October trying to knock out a few of those. I only got 2, and a lot of scenarios where the doe were just, a couple properties over from where I had permission or whatever the case was. It just wasn't coming together. So October was slow, and I think a lot of guys out there can relate to having slow Octobers. But then at the end, the pre-rut really started to kick in, and we had talked about in the last episode that I was on a big buck I saw on a new property that I just got permission at the end of last year, at the end of the hunting season. And, that property this year, I had trail camera pictures of I didn't even know how many points it had. I only got a couple pictures, but there was at least 18 points on the thing, And it was a different buck than the really big one you and I had talked about from last year. But as soon as I saw it, I'm like, that's got to be my target buck. There was another buck in that on that same camera. And I think I might have talked to you about that one. It was a 10-pointer that had a couple extra points at the base of the one side. So, probably was about a 13-pointer. And although he was a great buck in a normal situation would be a target buck, I was like, I got to try to hold out for this non-typical with all the points, And, he had disappeared from the camera. I only got maybe 2 pictures of him, but I knew he was in the area. And then one day I was hunting this one property where they're building a new development behind it. And the construction crew was delayed putting the road in for, I don't even know how long, probably months, because I expected houses to already be there from, when I hunted it last year. I'm like, this is probably the last year I'm going to get to hunt this place. But then when I talked to the property owner, they're like, yeah, they haven't done anything back there. And I was like, oh, okay, well, let me get permission again this year. And they go to my church. So the guy was like, absolutely, get rid of those deer. I can't stand them eating all of our vegetation, And so I got permission for that property. So the layout for those of you who are listening is this property butts up against to a large open space. They're about to build a small development, probably 30 homes, let's say, or less. And on the other side of that is another block of timber, more houses. And on the other side of that is where I had the trail camera, a property, up on that other end in that direction. So I've managed to get 3 permissions in this core area. So the property that I'm talking about across the opening, I have a permission right on the edge of that on the other side. And then the property that I have the trail camera on is probably 500 yards away from that home in a block of timber. And those of you who can picture urban hunting, sometimes there's houses with lots of forest around them. They just don't, their yards are small and it's still well, forested. So the deer, pile up in those areas. So that's the layout. And the night that I got the big one, I was hunting on the edge of that open, and he came out actually from the property I have permission at on the other side. And I started to tell you this one thing. I hunted this stand one morning, and the construction crew showed up at like 6 a.m., before daylight. And they started, I'm thinking, and it's a Saturday, I'm thinking these people in these houses are going to be irate. I'm sure they're going to, but they had ruined my hunt. So I got down and I started driving around the neighborhood, and I saw the big non-typical in someone's yard at 9 a.m. And that was earlier in October. And so I took a couple of pictures with my phone. It was my first time laying eyes on him in person. I was like, wow. And so he remained my target buck. So the night that I harvested him, he came out from the other property, and I'm like, figures, he's way over there. I'm over here. But I was like, you know what? There's always a chance, And so he started checking does way on the other side, a couple 100 yards away. And then he disappeared into the timber. And probably 15 minutes later, he popped back out. And I'm like, all right, I got to try it. So I started grunting at him. So I'm going to teach anyone who's listening a technique that I learned when I went to Penn State. I'm from Pennsylvania. And when I went to Penn State University, I went to a talk. This is back in the 1990s, like probably 1994. There was a fraternity, an ag fraternity that was had one of the staff members of Nightingale, which was a game call company. I'm not even sure if they're still in business or not, but they had a guy do a talk on deer calling. And I learned from him this technique that has scored many bucks for me. And I'm going to share it with you now. And it scored the biggest buck of my life. So the technique is this. When you see a deer out in the distance or whatever, grunt at him one time. If the deer looks in your way, just wait. As soon as he goes to take his head away and look back where he was going, hit the grunt, burn. And then don't do anything. And if the deer looks back, you're in business, because this deer has some form of interest. Everybody out there probably can relate to the deer that you grunted at and had zero response. That happens. But when a deer looks your way, there's an element of interest. So he looked my way on the first couple grunts, and I wasn't recording at this point in time because I didn't think it was gonna. I didn't know it would materialize in anything. So, and he's like 200 some yards away. So anyhow, I hit the grunt, and every time the deer tries to look away, you hit the grunt just one time. And I probably grunted at him. I usually, about 5 times. I might call it quits after that sometimes, but I did it to him a number of times. And then he started to walk on a diagonal down into a bottom area where there was another doe. So he went down and checked that doe, kind of puffed up at another buck, and I got a little bit of footage of him there. But at the same time, like, I do not want to mess this up. So I'm not trying too hard to video right now. I'm trying to figure out what to do. So I did a couple grunts at him down there. The same thing, but he did not look my way. But I knew he had already looked my way before. He knew there was something over there. So he's out checking does. And after that last one, he turned and angled toward the bottom of the thicket that I'm on the edge of. I'm like, wow, he's coming. So he goes to the bottom of the thicket. He's probably about 90 yards away. I can't see him anymore. He's in the thicket, and he's either going to wind me because the wind was blowing straight to him, or he's going to come. And so I got my feet in position to shoot, like to where my shot was going to be if he did come. I got everything ready, video camera turned on. And the way the video camera was, it was on the opposite side of the tree of the deer. So I was like, the only way I'm going to get footage of him is the time of the shot. I'm not going to, because he's going to be coming from behind me in my stance, and that's just going to have to do. So I'm standing there. 10, 15 minutes goes by, and I'm like, if he's going to come, he's going to come. But I didn't see him leave, so I don't know, and I just stayed ready. And then, and sure enough, I heard the hoofs coming. I'm like, oh man, he's coming. I can't believe it. And so let me just pause right here and say that the younger me would not have even come close to harvesting that deer because I would not have known how to play that situation. But because of the years of experience, and those of you who are developing years of experience for yourself, you do learn from past mistakes and past lessons. And so what I've shared with you, you can take for that. If that's new information for some of the listeners, you can take that forward and experiment with it. And as you grow in experience, you're going to learn how to tweak things. And the future version of you is going to be a lot more successful than the current version because of these types of details. And so, so he came and I grunt stopped him right in front of my stand. I think it was about an 18-yard shot, made an absolute dime of a shot. And he ran maybe 50 yards and popped over. And I was beside myself because, I've actually never set a target buck really before. Like I have. Let me retract that. But it's rare because I rarely have opportunities at properties where, there's a buck that lives in that core area. I'm mostly, my whole life, I've been a public land hunter for the most of it. I've got a small 12-acre property, which if we have time, I'd like to tell you a little bit about that real quick. But, yeah. So I have a small property, but I'm not the type of person that has access to a 150-acre property or a lease or that I own or any of that kind of stuff. And so it's hard to manage. Like I owned a 10-acre property that I think we talked about in the last episode. I tried to pass on a 14-pointer to let him grow a year, and I didn't end up getting him because like I had 10 acres, and no one else is really on the same page as me management wise. So I did not end up getting the deer. And then I sold the property, but when you have a small property, a couple acres, it's exceptionally hard to manage for a specific deer or deer structure age, so, we'll get back to that in a minute, but anyhow, so to finish off the big one, it was a great buck. He ended up having, I think it was 17 scoreable points. He broke off. He had a drop tine. He broke off, which really disappointed me because I've always wanted one with a drop tine. And he broke off 5 points that were probably about 3 to 5 inches long. So he rough scored at 178 and 3/4. So I'm thinking he would have been in the 190s easily if he had not broken off all those extra points. He had a whole bunch of points at the base of his rack just sticking out, and he still has some, but he broke off at least half of them. But a great deer all around. Actually, he's sitting right behind me.
You've got him, don't you? You've got him with you. Look at that thing.
So all these points at the base here, he had 3 sticking out right here on this side. He had 3, and then another 2 on this side. So he had all kinds of just my friend who I showed a picture to when I got a trail camera picture, he called it the Medusa buck because of all those extra points sticking out. And the drop tine was actually right here. It stuck out about, 3 inches or so right there. Wow. But yeah, really awesome buck. These cool points inside here on both sides. So yeah, this is a great buck, a buck of a lifetime for many of us. And I'm just grateful to God for it, So that's that buck.
I will say, Sean, I would be interested. I don't know if you sent teeth off, how old that buck is, because usually when you see the wavy tines, the trash off the bases, that indicates a really old deer.
So I saved the bottom jaw, and the teeth are almost gone. The deer is probably at least 9 years old. There's almost nothing there. And his one upper molar was ready to fall out, just probably from age infection. I don't know, but it was so loose. I literally, if I wanted to, I could have just went boop and pulled it right out. So, even from a realistic standpoint, that deer might have only had maybe a year left before those teeth were to a point where he could not get the nutrition he needed to survive. Ancient deer. So I'm grateful to God for that. It was a blessing. And, I really felt like going into that hunt, I was like, I think I'm going to get the deer tonight. Sometimes you just have a feeling, and that was one of those times in my life and when he came out on the other side, I was like, man, I'm not going to get him because he's way over there. And But maybe it just was a feeling that I was going to see him for the first time in the woods, but no, it ended up coming together. So yeah, he's an ancient deer for sure. And I'm going to keep that lower jaw just as a memento, just for that deer.
Absolutely. So I have a few minutes left here. So happy you're back with us this week. Your magic didn't stop there, though. Holy smokes! You took a nice buck on your own property too, right?
Yeah. So real quick, I have about 12-acre property, and I bought it last year. It's closer to home. That was the whole issue with the other one. It was too far away for traveling wise. But honestly, the deer on the property, I've been running cameras for a year now, and it's mostly all 2.5-year-old 8-pointer type of deer. It's rare to get a 3 or a 4-year-old, buck picture. I've never gotten anything that looked any older than a 4-year-old deer. And it's just probably, the neighbors, they got lots of grandkids that hunt and they just let them shoot anything. In fact, I shot a deer there last year. I got in a little baggie right here. I have fragments from a bullet. The skull of the deer I shot last year had a bullet in its skull. So who knows if there's even poaching going on over there. So anyhow, so what I'm dealing with is if I can I'm going into the season for my property, for my landowner tag. Hey, if I see a 3.5-year-old, that's my starting point. If I get a crack at a 3.5-year-old, I'm going to gladly take it because I don't have any on camera this year. I don't have any 3.5-year-old deer on camera. So that'll be an accomplishment. So I went into it. I hunted the property just a few times, and I saved my primary tree stand for the optimal situation. So I hunted it once, and the wind swirled all over that night instead of doing what it was supposed to, and I didn't see a deer because of it. And then the morning I harvested the deer, it was a great morning. I had deer all around me, and then this 3.5-year-old here. Let me grab the rack behind me. So 3.5-year-old, really cool rack.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So the front of the rack comes up almost like a point. Yeah. Really cool. So this dude came in. I'm like, you know what? 3.5-year-old, I'm going to take it because I don't have anything, like this on camera. Everything I have is like little 4-pointers and small basket rack. There is one 2-year-old 10-pointer that if he makes it a year or two is going to be a great deer. So anyway, I harvested this deer and I'm very grateful. I mean, this is the ideal for my situation. And then I've actually had a couple people criticize me. Most people just congratulating, but I had one person on YouTube criticize me for shooting a baby deer and all this stuff. And another person, kind of criticized me who owns 300 and some acres and trophy manages and is like, why, I saw you shot a small deer. It's like, dude, I don't own 300 acres and can just manage it however I want. I've got 12 and I'm at the mercy of the neighbors and it's not a huge block of timber. The whole region, there's not a lot of woods. And then there's a major highway 2 miles away. So there's lots of deer that get hit there. So, my message to anyone watching or listening is, just don't let people like that ruin your hunting. Work with what you got. What you got, and enjoy your life. Enjoy your hunting. If you harvest a deer that someone says is small, dismiss that person because that's, from a management perspective, this is a great scenario for me. And that's the person's like, this is someone who's anti-management. I'm like, this person has no idea, yeah. And so anyhow, I just want to encourage listeners, don't let people get to you who get into that, because at the end of the day, we're not going to take any antlers with us when we die. So enjoy your life, enjoy your harvests. Don't let anybody, criticize. Don't let anyone's criticism bring you down. Just stay with stay with the joy. And I think a lot of people, would benefit if they kept that mentality.
Great message there, Sean. Hey, I'll just add in, if I'm shaking, I'm shooting, man.
Yeah, there you go. That's how it works.
Yeah.
I'm shaking no matter what. So I guess I'd almost have to shoot anything.
Same here. I get all shook up on a doe still. I took a doe October 7th and was able to capture that on my GoPro. And, nice. Some of my friends joke with me how hard I was breathing in the video. And I'm like, man, she had me all shook up. She had me pinned. I was hunting on the ground and she was at 15 yards and it took like 5 or 10 minutes before she finally turned and gave me an opportunity, and I smoked her. So,
nice.
Yeah, I was breathing pretty hard. She could probably hear me.
Yeah, that's intense, man. I'll tell you, there's nothing like being on the ground that close. I hunt out mostly out of a tree stand, especially since I'm, trying to film with different cameras and stuff. But being on the ground's intense, man. You really, it's so hard because like you said, she kind of picked you out a little bit, and then it was a staring match. That's tough, man. Good job.
Thanks. Thank you. Well, Sean, so happy to have you back here on the show, and congratulations on an awesome 2025 season. And hopefully you have some more luck if you have another tag or two, and we wish you the best, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Sean McVeigh with us from Sean's Outdoor Adventures. Check him out on YouTube and online. I'm Brent Barnett here with the Brownfield Outdoor Adventures podcast. We thank you for joining us. Get outdoors and have a great weekend.